Welcome to issue or episode number 10 of the Rach the Wretched One podcast. I'm Rachel. I can't believe I've got to 10. It was something that I set out to do, just literally sitting in my living room, and I was like, do you know what? I could record my own podcast. Let me go upstairs and do it. And I just did it. And now I'm on the 10th one. So onwards and upwards, I'm going to hope to keep chugging on and keep talking random rubbish that I can get off my chest every single week, in the hope that there are a few of you out there that actually listen to it and it helps me, and hopefully it helps somebody else out there. So thanks for sticking with me for all 10 episodes, and for those of you that are new, welcome, and go back and listen to number 1 and work your way through. I think you'll get to understand me a bit better if you do it that way, rather than jump in at the deep end at this point and think, what the hell is this woman chatting about? I don't know. She's random. Yeah, start from the beginning and put it all into perspective and gain some context about who I am. It definitely will help you. First off, how gorgeous was the weather on Saturday? Absolutely amazing. I don't know if it was like that where you were, but where I am, it was a scorcher. I looked at the temperature and it was 29.5 degrees. Almost as hot as when you go on your summer holidays. The house was roasting hot though. Everything had to go in the fridge. You know, you leave your bread out on the side, or if you've got cakes and things like that, everything had to go in the fridge because it was all going to go off. But I tell you, it was beautiful. It was such a lovely day. And I decided to take myself off down to good old Aldi. You know, I love my Aldi. And went down there, and all I did is I threw on like some leggings and a t-shirt, because I just thought to myself, right, I'm not really in it to be wearing shorts and stuff and dresses. Body's not set up like that, you know, in terms of like legs ain't shaved, all of that rubbish. So I thought, do you know what? I'll just put these leggings on and a t-shirt, get myself down to Aldi, buy the bits that I needed to do, and then come home. So yeah, I had a look in the mirror like you do. You check yourself over and everything looked fine. So I went there, did my shopping, and I was getting a few looks, but nothing too crazy, you know, maybe people's passing looks looking past you, and I thought maybe it's because I'm like overdressed for the hot weather because I've got leggings on and a t-shirt, not like, you know, shorts and little dresses like I just said. So did my shopping, boom, 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 and then, you know, drove back home. About an hour or so after going back home, I'm there, and I think I was like standing in the kitchen, and you know, like you feel some sort of breeze in the back of your clothes. So I'm like, why does my bum feel a bit cold? When I put my hand where I felt the cold air, there was a big old hole in my leggings, right at my batty cheek. Shame. So I'd gone to Aldi. I forgot to say, I also popped into town. I'd also, you know, walked up and down, and I didn't notice that my bum was out a door with a hole in the back of my leggings. And you know, you can't go back. You can't change time. I wish I could. I wish I could jump in a time machine and go back. I also go and find them people and say, oh, sorry, I had a hole in my leggings. I didn't realise it was there. Walking around in hot weather with my bum cheek exposed in these cheap Primark leggings that I decided to buy. Shame. It's like, you know, when you go around all day and then you look in the mirror when you get home and you've got like dried snot on your nose, or all this time in the corner of your mouth you had like, you know, white stuff in the corner because, I don't know, you brushed your teeth and the toothpaste stayed there, or maybe you missed it when you were doing your facial routine in the morning, and you're just out here looking like an absolute fool, but no one's there to tell you different. So you come home and have to replay in your head all the scenarios where you totally embarrassed yourself and didn't realise it. And I chucked them ones in the bin. And I'm going to have to go and check all my other leggings to make sure that they ain't got no tear out bits in the back. Speaking of summer though, yes, I think I'm ready for the lovely weather. And yeah, I do need to get my clothes in order, you know, case in point, wearing leggings in hot weather. I need to make sure that, you know, I can wear my dresses and things. So make sure the legs are shaved and the armpits are done. You know how it goes, women. But also, even though I think I've got a summer body that's ready, I sure as no I ain't got no summer feet. My feet have been neglected. I swear, if I'm going out, I can't even wear no flip-flops at the moment. I can't wear flip-flops. I can't wear no nice sandals. My feet are tear up. And as my cousin Desiree once said, which made me laugh so much, it's like you can tap dance on carpet. You know how your feet is so hard. I don't know what it is. I think I'm walking up and down all the time. And I must admit, I don't pay enough attention. Like, you have your shower, and I do that, and I use the, the foot scrub and the pumice stone, but I'm not doing it consistently. So my feet look a damn state, to the point that my son is always taking a mickey out of my foot bottom. Mum, look at your heel back. Why's your heel back looking like that? Because I've been cussing my dad's foot for years, and now it's coming back to bite me. So I really need to get these feet sorted, because, boy, nail polish ain't going to do it. It ain't going to do it. I'm going to be out here scaring the kids if I'm out here wearing little sandals and my feet are looking like ginger. You know the root ginger that you get from Tesco's, and it's all knobbly and gnarly. That's how my foot is looking. I need to get that thing what's that one I've seen on the TV where not the thing that grates your foot like a cheese grater, the other one where you put the some kind of acid thing on your feet and then it all peels off and it all looks nice. I think I just need to do something like that, and I just need to take some time and really sort my feet out, because I can't be walking around here like this. I have to get those sandals with the back. You know, like you get sandals which are like normally flip-flops expose the back of your feet, but you can get those sandals which have like an almost shoe back to them. That's for people like me that are hiding their foot. So when you see women walking around with them kind of sandals, it's not style. It's basically because we're having to compensate for the fact that our heels are looking like the back of a claw hammer. Bad. So yeah, I need to sort that out. If you've listened to my first and the most recent podcast that I did, you will know that I'm a fangirl and I love comics. Always have done, grown up loving them. And I don't know if I've mentioned them, but the kind of comics I liked weren't like your typical, like your Marvel and DC kind of comics. I did like them because I liked Batman when I was a kid, and I absolutely love Wonder Woman. I'm a DC head. I know Marvel is like the big thing at the moment, but historically for me, DC was the one back in the day, and anyone that's my age will attest to that. It wasn't until like, I would say, mid-90s or a bit later that really Marvel started coming through with the X-Men cartoon that used to come on Saturdays that my brother used to watch. Anyway, one of the comics that I absolutely loved when I was a kid was these kind of sci-fi, creepy, eerie tale comics that my mum and my auntie had. And they were like, I think I talked about this before, and if I have, apologies, but they were like these comics set in like those almost like Pulp Fiction kind of styles, with like, stories about, the creature from the Black Lagoon, or it could be like a Twilight Zone eerie story about some guy who liked a woman and it turned out she was an alien. But they were always drawn in that kind of detective agency kind of comic style from like the 40s and 50s. So anyway, I've been seeing these comics when I was a kid, and they always struck a chord with me. I'd read them over and over again, and I couldn't find them. And I just thought I'd love to be able to, go back and find those comics and read them again. So we've got like a local comic shop where I live. And there's also, obviously in London, lots of those kind of places. And I've never been able to find them. But I recently rediscovered who it was. And basically it was a man called Alan Class. So Alan Class was a British publisher, and what he did is he took a lot of those American Pulp Fiction comics and republished them for British audiences. Hence why they were an old style, but they came out in like the kind of 70s and 80s. Hence why I got them, because my mum and my auntie used to read them. And I'm so happy, because what I'm going to do now is go back and start buying all of these again. I've looked on eBay and I've seen that you can buy them for like £2 to £3, and there's loads of these comics. So yeah, I'm definitely going out to buy those. So chuffed about that. And on top of that, I've been going to like charity shops and finding the kind of fun comics I used to read as a kid, and I've passed them down to my son. So my son loves reading the Beano. But on top of the Beano, I used to read another comic. It was called Beezer, and there was one called Topper. And my mum got them from a charity shop for me, because I think they were older than me. And I just loved all the characters. And when I got older, I didn't realise that Beezer, Topper and Beano are all the same company. So they're all the same publishing company, and it's just that Beano has withstood the test of time, and Bees are on top of sort of like fallen off. But I recently found some ones like that. And how weird is the universe on this? So I found a Beezer and a topper, I think they were like £4, in this kind of graphic art shop in London. Then I went to my local comic shop, which I do believe in supporting, local businesses. It's what keeps the high street alive, and it keeps that variety. So yeah, I went to my local comic shop, and then on the shelf they had an old topper. And I was like, oh wow, I just literally picked one up the week before, and this was £2. I thought, I can't pass this up, I can give it to my son. So I got it, and last night I opened it up to have a look at it, just to reminisce, because, it reminds me of being a kid in the summer holidays, just sitting there and reading. And the weird thing is that it had a child's name written in it. So probably a kid from the 80s, they'd got their annual and they'd written who it had belonged to. And the name of the kid, the address of the kid, was yards from where I used to live in North London. How weird is that? So at that time, I would have just moved into that house in North London, and this kid would have been a couple of streets away in the same area and had got his annual of Topper. And here it is now, over 30 years later, I'm actually purchasing his copy in a charity shop. It's just weird how the universe works. Something gets put out there, and all of a sudden, all the tiles lay in the right direction, and you follow it. I've always seen it as a bit like a slipstream. There's plenty of all these different slipstreams of energies and destinies, and you end up riding one. You just literally get into that slipstream and ride it. And that's why I'm always a real believer of fate, leaving it up to things. I think I mentioned that in a previous podcast, if you're going to be late and there's all these obstacles in the way, stop and try to, align yourself with this new kind of future, because it's doing it for a reason. So it's the same way. So, you're on this kind of path. If I hadn't gone into that shop, I wouldn't have picked up and seen it, the first book, and then that wouldn't have triggered me to go to my local shop to say, I wonder if there's any other copies there, and then to get that. And it's a small thing, and it doesn't necessarily change your future, but it's almost like you're given a little treat. When these kind of things happen, these little things of serendipity happen, it's like a little treat for you, that it's a gift that the universe is planting on you, just to make your day go by a bit nicer, just to make you go, oh, that's amazing, or God, I never thought of that. It's a nice thing. Accept those gifts and appreciate them. Speaking of comics and things I loved as a kid, one of the things that I absolutely love, and I can't explain it, it's like inside of me. I love anything miniature. If it's miniature, it does something to me. It makes me want to squeal. And it must be like an extra emotion. You've got happiness, sadness, fear, ecstasy, anger, hate, jealousy, all of these different feelings. Then there must be this one that's like, that kind of squealy, kind of cuteness overload emotion. I think the Japanese, they call it kawaii, isn't it? It's like kawaii is cute. And they're very good at creating things that evoke that emotion out of you, that want you to just curl up in a ball because everything's so lovely. That is what miniatures do to me. So as a kid, I've always been, obsessed with things like doll houses. And not just doll houses that are just your doll and the house is nice and you've got all these little accessories like Barbie. That wouldn't impress me. It would be the real kind of like Edwardian and Victorian doll houses where when you opened it, somebody has taken the time to painstakingly create replicas of everyday objects, but to the ratio that it's so small. So everything is in proportion. And now, thanks to YouTube, you can sit and watch, people create these kind of things. I just think it's amazing. So watch people create, miniature dolls or a miniature version of a cooking, stove with all the working parts. That's the thing that gets me. If it's got working parts, it sends me over because I can't deal with it. I can't deal. So things like that. I remember I had a charm bracelet, and I made sure that all the charms I bought were miniatures that work. So a little bell with the actual little hammer inside that rang. And a friend of mine, I think when I was young, had like a charm which was like a train station, and the train went into the station. Like it was tiny, but it worked. Those kind of things, I love to see. And one of the things I'm loving at the moment online is watching miniature cooking. Something about it. So literally it's a person that's created a kitchen and shrunk it all the way down to, doll size, if not doll like Barbie doll size, even smaller. So maybe the doll is like, the size of your index finger, and everything else is in proportion to that size. And then what they do is they cook meals, and the actual real meals. So they'll make an omelette, or they'll do like stir-fried rice, or they'll make, I don't know, a pot pie. But the oven works, and the rolling pin works, and the fridge works. It's just so relaxing and fascinating to see, and it gives me joy. And there's another one that I watch, which is a lady, and she bakes real life amazing cakes, but they're miniature. So these cakes are like, you look at it and it's like a 3-tiered unicorn cake, or it's like a rainbow cake. You cut those cakes and inside it's like a piñata and all the little sweets fall out. And what this person has done is she's not only has a miniature kitchen, and with rolling pins and all of that, all of her ingredient packets have been handmade to be miniature as well. So her flour is in a mini flour packet, or if she's doing something with Haribo bears, I remember she made a cake like that. The actual bag of Haribo bears has been made by her with the mini Haribo bears in it. It's the little things in life that really please people. And I think once you find things like that and they give you comfort and happiness, hold on to them, because, it's a small thing. Literally, pun intended, it is a small thing. But I just love it so much. And I can sit and watch those for hours. And when I go with my son to, these kind of like fan events and these comic cons and things like that, if they've got anything that's cutesy and tiny and things like that, I'm buying it. Can't deal. I have to buy it. One of the things I want to talk about is mental health and how to make sure that we achieve good mental health, and also how we can help other people that don't necessarily have good mental health in this moment in time. We spend a lot of time taking care of the outside in terms of, how we look and how our bodies are. So whether it's things that are on display, so making sure that you've got good teeth and your hair looks healthy, and you've got good nails, and your feet are sorted out and things like that. And we also make sure that we're looking after the inside, because we now know about diseases like, high cholesterol, or if you've got high blood pressure or diabetes, and all of these kind of things we really now put a focus on. But we keep forgetting that special organ that sits between our ears, which is, one of the most important functioning parts of our body. And it's important to keep that healthy and strong. So, there is strengthening exercises that you can do, mental endurance, but there's also ways to just keep yourself healthy, light, love, companionship, positivity, fresh air. All of these things help to contribute to good mental health. So those are the things you do to work on yourself. But one of the things we need to make sure we do is check on other people and make sure that they're okay. So the reason why I'm bringing this up is because I was in the supermarket, the same place where my bum was hanging out my leggings, and I was in the queue and waiting to be served. And this gentleman came along, and he was behind me in the queue, and I would say he probably had about 10 years on me in terms of age. And a really, nice guy, and he seemed all well and normal enough, and he started to talk to me. I think he tried to talk to somebody else before. I think he had a little chat with them, and then he moved over and had a chat with me. And he just started out by talking about my t-shirt, because I had a t-shirt which had Sesame Street characters on it fighting, and it said Street Fight. So it's meant to be like a play on Street Fighter, but at the same time it had all the Sesame Street characters. Very tongue-in-cheek, very comic-y and fan-based. So he pointed that out, and he started to talk about, isn't that the same guy that did the Muppets? And I'm like, oh yeah, Jim Henson, blah, blah, blah. And then he talked about one of the iconic films, The Dark Crystal, which I absolutely loved. And we, had a little bit of a light conversation as we were waiting to, take our turns to be served. And then what he said was, I've got the Dark Crystal DVD. And my daughter, she would love to watch that. I should really give it to her. She's had a lot of problems lately. She's having a lot of mental health issues. I myself have a lot of mental health issues too. Now, when somebody's talking like that and it's quite out of the blue, it's, it's very easy to almost be like, all right, mate, okay, avoid eye contact and then, try and get on what you're doing. But he wanted to talk, and it wasn't that he wanted to talk about his mental illness, but maybe the mental state that he was in was causing him to just be more spontaneous about and more open about his situation and his family's situation. So he talked about the fact that he had depression, and that the fact that he has been on benefits for quite some time. And I mean, this was all taking place in a matter of minutes, so he'd met this complete stranger, me, and felt it was comfortable and appropriate enough to talk about his situation, his daughter's problems with substance abuse, and as I said, his own personal problems, and the fact that, he didn't have much money coming in. And what I did was just spoke to him normally, not did, oh my God, that's sad, or, oh really, or try and change the subject. I was like, oh, really? Spoke to him literally, like, gave him the same energy he was giving me. He was very matter of fact and open, and I responded in the same way. And it was nice because I actually got to see behind this man that had, the facade of being, mentally ill, or being in a situation where his mental health was not great. I got past that and saw a guy that was shopping and, remembers all the good films and the comics from the good old days, and has a daughter who is quite grown up, and is enjoying this lovely hot day. And he'd bought her some those kind of like ready mixed coffee drinks. He'd bought a couple, one for her, one for him, because they were going to go and sit in the garden and they were going to do that. And it was good to get past that. And I think that's something that, if we can all do that, we help other people. Because him, when we finished and I packed up my stuff and I said, it was nice talking to you. And he went, brilliant talking to you too. And then that's it. We went, our separate ways. But I would like to think that I helped him to relieve whatever was on his mind at that moment in time. It doesn't hurt to talk to people. It doesn't hurt to be open. We're in a queue. He didn't look dangerous. I know sometimes there could be situations where you might be putting yourself in present danger if you do engage with somebody that may not be stable. But this was somebody that was just talking, and maybe some of their topics were a little bit left field, but we could still hold a normal conversation. So, do that as well with family and friends. Sometimes, family or friends go through situations where their health isn't great. And as I said, health across their whole body. If we're comfortable talking to somebody when they're sick, and we're comfortable going to visit somebody if they're in the hospital because they've broken their leg or they've just had an operation, we really need to train ourselves to be comfortable having a chat and being open to people that are having health issues with their mind, because it's another organ at the end of the day. That's just what it is. And we've come to the end of podcast number 10. I think I'm getting slicker at this. Or maybe I'm just kidding myself. I'm either, getting really slick, or I was talking a whole lot of rubbish back in the day. And now I'm just a little bit more succinct with what I want to say. But my final thought for this podcast is, when somebody gives you energy, try to understand where it's coming from. And this could be positive or negative, but let's focus on negative. So when you're with somebody and they've, somebody could be a bully, kids at school when they bully other children, or you could be working with somebody and they're always on you. No matter what you say about something, they always find a way to undermine or criticize you. Or you could have a friend that she never or he never seems happy for you. No matter what you do, they're never happy for you. What we have to try to do is try to look past that and think, where is this energy coming from? Because once you start doing that, you start to understand them more and your reaction becomes less. So you don't get in that situation where they've made you feel a certain way about yourself, because if anything, you've analysed where they're coming from so much to the point that now you feel for them and you want to help them. So if you give the example of the bully at school, so there could be a child who's a very happy child, and then there's another child that consistently is finding a way to make this child's life miserable. And what we look at is, why is that child doing that? And when we find that child is miserable inside, whether there's something going on at home, whether they've got self-esteem issues, whether they've got jealousy about this other child, there is something coming from them. So the energy is from them. And once that other child understands, oh, the reason why Jordan keeps calling you names, or the reason why Sarah keeps trying to trip you up is because, you know, her mum and dad have been arguing a lot, or it's because when she goes home, she hasn't got a laptop like you and you're talking about your laptop with your friends. So once you understand that, it's like, okay, I understand where this is coming from. It's not an excuse, but it helps you to deal with it a lot better. The same with the friend, that every time you talk about something good, you could be like, oh, you know, I'm going on holiday with my husband and we're going to blah de blah. And that person's like, must be nice for you. I guess. Why do you always want to talk about your holiday? It's all you ever talk about is your holiday. You always talk about your husband. That's all you go on about. Can't you talk about something else? Instead of being like, oh my God, what's wrong with you? Ask that in your head. What's wrong with them? What's happened? What's happening? And 9 times out of 10, it will be that they're unhappy with their current situation. So then you can take that breath and be like, okay. This has happened to them recently, I remember, or maybe that things aren't going well. And then, you know, at the right time, you can reach out to them and go, how's it going? How are things? I've noticed that you're not yourself lately. It helps you to cope. So I think going forward, that's something that I would like all of us to do together, is let's try to understand, you know, where is this coming from? You know, when the perpetrator is doing what they do, where is it coming from? Because understanding always reduces fear. And that works in any situation. So, you know, when they talk about racism and people being prejudiced or homophobic, when they don't understand something, or xenophobic, you know, you don't understand a group of people, then all of a sudden all these fears come up, and these fears turn into assumptions. Oh, they're like this. They're going to take over our country. You know, they're going to turn my children gay. They're going to rob me. All of these kind of things. Once they get to know people of those different communities, it's like, oh, I was wrong. So it's the same way. Understanding reduces fear. So once you understand the bully and where they're coming from, once you understand the friend that, you know, you can't stand being around, or you loathe being around because they just make you feel so bad about yourself, it reduces that fear of being in their presence, and it creates an understanding that then you are able to help them going forward. So that is my take on today. And until next week, goodbye.